From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News, with Roger Mudd substituting for vacationing Walter Cronkite. And in Washington, Eric Severide, Bob Schieffer, Fred Graham, Bruce Morton, Tom Fenton in Israel, Robert Shackney in New York, Richard Threlkeld in San Francisco, and Charles Osgood in Newport, Rhode Island.
Good evening. President Ford let it be known today he is now considering pardoning all Watergate defendants. There are 48 of them. 39 have pleaded guilty or have been convicted. 5 are now in prison. 4 have done their time. The president's move came barely 48 hours after he startled the nation with a full pardon of Richard Nixon. Speaker Albert said today a blanket pardon would be viewed as an abuse of presidential power. Our reports begin with Bob Schieffer at the White House.
Deputy White House Press Secretary John W. Hushin, for the time being at least, Mr. Ford's chief spokesman, dropped the bombshell in response to a question at the White House news briefing. Sound cameras were not allowed, but Hushin repeated his answer 3 times. He said the entire matter of pardons is under study. He said he was speaking with the president's authorization. He said the study applied to those already in prison on Watergate charges and those whose trials are pending. Beyond that, Hushin said he could give no further guidance. A few minutes later, the president's chief legal advisor, White House counsel Philip Buchan, came to the briefing room. Again, no sound cameras allowed, but he too brought a surprise. Buchan said he had no information about the study of additional pardons. He said other White House aides had told him about the study, but he said the president had not discussed the idea with him. As for the presidential pardon of Richard Nixon, Buchan said he was certain it was not part of any deal worked out between Nixon and Mr. Ford or any of their aides. He said the statement that Mr. Nixon issued on Sunday was about what the White House expected. Again, he said the statement was not part of any deal. Buchan said he was convinced after talking to Mr. Nixon's lawyers that Mr. Nixon had no intention of pleading guilty to any charge in court. But Buchan said the acceptance of the pardon itself could be read as an admission of guilt. Over and over today, Buchan described the pardon as an act of mercy, and as he explained it, mercy is never equally dispensed. Mercy seems to work in unequal fashion. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, the White House.
The possibility of a blanket Watergate pardon has created legal confusion for both the prosecution and the defense. More on this from Fred Graham.
At the special prosecutor's office, a year of work seemed to be unraveling as the latest word came from the White House. Philip Lacovara, who resigned in protest yesterday but won't leave until later this month, said the pardons would change everything.
Well, it certainly would call into question whether there's any reason for the organization to continue with the responsibilities that were assigned to it, but that's something that other people other than I will have to decide.
But spokesman James Doyle took a more optimistic view.
This office has been through 14 months of various kinds of trauma and surprise, and it's withstood them all pretty well, and I think it's withstanding this latest surprise very well.
Vladimir Pregel, the foreman of the Watergate grand jury, said, in view of the first pardon, it's only fair. But if I had my druthers, I would like to see everybody go through the judicial process. Defendant John Ehrlichman, who was listening to tapes at the special prosecutor's office in preparation for the cover-up trial that's scheduled for September 30th, said he also had mixed feelings.
Obviously, the difficulty with that is that when you know you're innocent, it precludes the opportunity of having that established finally, and so it's something that I really would like to think about before I comment.
Are you saying you might not accept a pardon?
I'm not saying.
Donald Segretti, who's already served his sentence, was all for letting the others off.
It just wouldn't be fair to let the former president off the hook. And you have someone like John Dean, who took a lot of moral courage, got up and told it like he saw it, or Herb Kalmbach, or some of these others, got up and told it like it is, or like they saw it, and for them to languish in jail for a long period of time. Somehow that just doesn't sit right with me.
Meanwhile, the White House released a memorandum from the special prosecutor's office showing that the prosecutors were checking many leads concerning Nixon, but no undisclosed bombshells when he was pardoned. It listed 10 offenses in addition to the Watergate cover-up that were being investigated in connection with Mr. Nixon. But the memo concluded that, quote, None of these matters at the moment rises to the level of our ability to prove even a probable criminal violation by Mr. Nixon. Fred Graham, CBS News, Washington.
From the opinions of various law professors around the country, the general consensus was that an overall Watergate pardon is clearly within Mr. Ford's constitutional powers, but some expressed concern about the effect on the judicial system.
Well, I think you'd get an aroused public opinion, which would make it quite clear that the sense of American justice would not have been served. I'm quite sure the general attitude would be that people in high places with strong political ties are not responsible for their criminal acts, and that is hardly a contribution to justice.
Once Mr. Nixon has received his pardon, which he has, then there's a kind of an equal justice principle that says that others who may have been involved and who may indeed have been acting at his bidding should be treated no less humanely. But on the other hand, it deprives all of us of any possible way of getting the record of what really happened in Watergate. There'll be no trial of Nixon, and if there is to be no further trial of the other defendants, the record is incomplete.
Acting White House Press Secretary Hushin said today a presidential decision on conditional amnesty for war resistors is now expected no later than the end of this month. Yesterday, he said the decision had been delayed indefinitely.
Arthritis acting up tonight?
My elbow feels so stiff, but I just took 2 of those.
Relieves minor arthritic pain and stiffness for hours. Bayer timed release aspirin. Sounds different.
It is different.
That's right. The other leading products are made to be taken every 4 hours. Bayer timed release once in 8 hours. The difference is micro-encapsulated aspirin.
It really helps me wake without that morning stiffness.
Get Bayer timed release aspirin. It's made to work overtime.
That dollar's shrinking, and denture wearers feel the pinch like everybody else. But here's good news. Orifix, the dependable denture adhesive that holds and keeps holding, now comes in a new economical supersize. You can save money over other leading denture adhesive creams from 19 to 27%. Check prices. You should even save if other brands offer coupons or price specials. Orifix Supersize won't stop inflation, but it could help. Buy new Supersize Orifix, the seal of confidence, and save.
Just as the Nixon pardon provoked a backlash, so did the word that the pardon may be extended to all Watergate offenders. Bruce Morton has some of the political and congressional reaction.
If this was a trial balloon, it had a very short flight. Democratic National Chairman Robert Strauss was emphatic about its political
I don't
effect.
think this president has cut his throat, but he certainly slashed his political wrist a bit. And I think he's going to suffer politically from it. I think Democrats and Republicans alike were beginning to feel that we were entering into the dawn of a new day, if you will. And I think on the basis of the president's action this past Sunday and what he's proposing to do additionally, it looks like maybe we're stepping back into the shadows, and the American public doesn't like that.
At the Republican National Committee, Strauss's opposite number declined to be interviewed. On Capitol Hill, Mondale of Minnesota urged amending the Constitution to let Congress overrule presidential pardons. Cranston of California talked of a resolution urging presidential restraint in pardoning. Democrats attacked, Republicans mixed cautious defense with criticisms of their own.
I would not be. I think that the issue could cut both ways. There are those that feel that everybody connected should be punished and severely punished. There are those that feel that their crimes were not of such a magnitude that they should not be pardoned. So I just really couldn't gauge at this moment the political impact of it. Obviously, it's an issue on which we're divided.
This would be the second time that I've been stunned and shocked and surprised, completely disappointed, and thoroughly disgusted within the last week. I hope that this is merely a trial balloon and that it will not become a reality.
Now, if you look upon Watergate, or if anyone looks upon Watergate as Richard Nixon, then you've missed the entire point of the last 2 years. The point of the last 2 years was that we are a government of laws, not of men. That there is equal justice in this country. And that's the difficulty with the decisions that have been made in the last several days. I'm afraid the entire point has been lost upon President Ford.
I could appreciate that many feel outraged and wonder whether or not the system of justice works for everyone equally as well, whether for the powerful and the rich in one set of standards and the other ordinary citizens another set of standards. But I suppose we've got to recognize, however, that the president does have this authority.
To measure the political effect, CBS News telephoned party state chairmen around the country. Kentucky Republican Charles Coy was optimistic. Maybe we're at a point where everybody wants to forgive. But Republican William McLaughlin in Ford's home state of Michigan said a general pardon would be very damaging. I don't see any pluses in it. Democrat John Bailey in Connecticut. It can't help but hurt Republican candidates, and they needed all the help they could get, don't you think? And a Midwestern Republican official who wanted to remain anonymous. Are you serious? You've got to be joking. I would move my vacation up to October. It would be silly to wait here and have our brains beat out. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
A public opinion poll conducted for CBS News and the night newspapers indicates a 2-to-1 disapproval of the pardoning of Richard Nixon. The same survey, however, suggests that extending the pardon to all Watergate defendants probably would do Mr. Ford no additional damage in his standing with the public. Robert Shackney has the details.
The poll conducted by telephone yesterday shows only a quarter of those surveyed approve the pardon. More than twice that many, 59%, disapproved, with 15% undecided. Half of our sample of 629 people thought that Mr. Nixon, by accepting the pardon, was admitting guilt in the Watergate affair. 32% thought that there was no admission of guilt. 18% were undecided. Almost the same proportion of people who disapprove of the Nixon pardon now think that the other Watergate defendants should be pardoned. 55% want President Ford to issue such pardons. 29% oppose such pardons. 16% are undecided. About the same proportion of our sample also favors some kind of amnesty for draft evaders. 17% of the people polled want the president to grant draft evaders unconditional pardons. 40% favor conditional pardons. Pardons if the draft evaders provide useful services to the country. 29% oppose any kind of pardon at all, and 14% were undecided. The CBS News night newspaper poll indicates a sharp decline in President Ford's popularity compared to the only previous figures available, the findings of a mid-August Gallup poll. While the Gallup poll involved a different sample, the findings suggest a significant change. The proportion in yesterday's poll approving the job the president is doing is 23 percentage points lower. Disapproval 28 percentage points higher than the August survey. Robert Shackney, CBS News, New York.
And out in San Francisco, Richard Threlkeld has done some sampling on his own, admittedly not scientific, but intimately related to the issue of a general pardon.
Today's news from the White House didn't sit very well at municipal court in San Francisco. John Patterson sentenced to 6 months for public drunkenness.
Well, I relate this. They have the money and they're the upper crust and, money's the whole trick.
Richard Trachoma in court on a drug possession charge.
I feel as though if they're going to pardon all the guys in Watergate, why shouldn't they pardon everybody that's ever done anything, you know?
For Vince Murphy, it was more than just the $25 faulty muffler ticket he had to pay.
What I do relate it to is the amnesty for draft evaders. I think he had better get on the stick and take care of that first before worrying about the people out there at the country club.
Bob Weedle, convicted of overtime parking.
Well, I think that if they let the top echelon guys go and the little guys get these things slapped at them, fines and all that stuff, I think they get the same consideration of having it dismissed. And if this is the case, then I guess the law ain't going to mean a damn thing. I mean, it's just going to dismiss everything.
It's an unscientific survey, to be sure, but about 90% of the defendants we talked to at municipal court would be happy to accept a full pardon and offer a full confession, full disclosure, and surrender of all tapes and other documents relating to their crime to boot. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, San Francisco.
Your health is important to you, right? Well, when was the last time you really did something for your health? When was the last time you got some good exercise? And the food you eat, are you sure you're getting enough iron? You need iron, and Geritol can give it to you. Geritol has more than twice the iron of any ordinary supplement, and important vitamins, too. Geritol, every day. Because when you've got your health, you've got just about everything.
Geritol, every day.
And the band played on.
Do you realize what time it is? Well, even Gloria won't have any trouble falling asleep tonight.
Oh, Uncle Ned remembers I sometimes have trouble falling asleep. He's the one who told me about Sominex.
That's right.
And Uncle Ned, you know Sominex really does help make me drowsy so I can get to sleep.
With a lot less trouble. Take Sominex tonight.
Sominex. It helps take the trouble out of falling asleep.
Over the past month, Arab leaders have been coming to Washington for meetings with President Ford and Secretary of State Kissinger about the Middle East. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Rabin arrived for 4 days of meetings and was greeted by President Ford. Marvin Kalb has a report.
Rabin wants a long-term American military commitment, according to one estimate, $1.5 billion a year over the next 5 years. The president used the word commitment in his opening remarks, but he avoided specifics.
We shall continue to stand with Israel. We are committed to Israel's survival and security.
Rabin in public was no more specific, but he emphasized the critical link between Israeli strength and peacemaking prospects.
Only a strong Israel, which has the capacity to deter aggression and to defend herself successfully by her own strengths, has a chance of winning peace.
Israel wants weapons to ensure peace, and the U.S. needs peace to head off another Arab oil embargo or price hike. The expectation here is that some kind of deal mixing weapons with diplomacy will be made. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, the White House.
Shortly after Rabin flew to Washington, Israel said it has started new military maneuvers on the Golan Heights, one more example of Israel's increased state of war preparedness. While Rabin tries to get more weapons to strengthen Israel's military, he also has to face demands that he give up captured territory. Tom Fenton reports.
With the threat of war again looming on the horizon, Israel is seeking new weapons to strengthen its armed forces. Despite the fact that the weapons were promised by former President Nixon, delivery has been held up by reported technical difficulties. In addition to sophisticated weapons, the Israelis urgently want more tanks, a conventional weapon no longer produced in great quantities in the United States, but still used on a massive scale in the Middle East. Prime Minister Rabin will seek President Ford's personal intervention to speed up deliveries. Ford and Secretary Kissinger will be pressing Rabin for clarification of Israel's stand on the next round of negotiations. Rabin would prefer to begin with Egypt. A pullback from the western half of the Sinai in return for certain Egyptian guarantees, including a declaration of non-belligerency, would present fewer domestic political problems. Negotiations with Jordan would be a political minefield. Rabin is expected to tell Ford that Israel could give up the ancient city of Jericho in the Jordan Valley in return for a guarantee of non-belligerency from King Hussein. But with every inch of the occupied West Bank coveted by those Israelis who think of it as part of biblical Israel, return of even Jericho would force Rabin into no elections.
Rabin's government has only narrow support from an uneasy coalition of parties. He's already under fire from the opposition for appearing to have been summoned to Washington rather than invited. If possible, Rabin would like to put off negotiations with Jordan until a later stage.
To add to the pressure on Israel, both Egypt and Syria have warned that they will not renew the mandates of the UN peacekeeping forces when they expire this fall, unless it is clear that there will be further Israeli withdrawals within a few months. The United Nations mandate on the Egyptian front expires October 24th, on the Syrian front November 30th. The Israelis are especially concerned about the threat from Syria. Israeli leaders have already hinted that removal of UN troops manning the buffer zone on the Golan Heights could lead to an Israeli preemptive strike. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Israel.
Egypt's President Anwar Sadat was quoted today as saying that if Israel does not withdraw from occupied Arab territory, then we will go to war once more.
If you think big insurance companies are just cold, calculating computers, you ought to know us. We're Century Insurance. We're the kind of people who still have an annual picnic, who care about each other and our customers. We're a big insurance company, but our people don't act that way. Maybe that's why our policyholders get such good service.
A big insurance company doesn't have to act like a big insurance company. That's Century's policy.
This medicine does something for you if you've done too much to yourself.
It speeds to settle the stomach you stuffed and hurries to help the aching body you indulged. If you've had too much of a good thing, take Alka-Seltzer. Fast-acting Alka-Seltzer, a bubbly drink that helps you if you've helped yourself to too much. For acid indigestion alone, use new Alka-Seltzer Gold without aspirin.
Last December, the tiny unmanned spacecraft Pioneer 10 cruised within 81,000 miles of Jupiter. Today, scientists revealed what they had found out from Pioneer's photographs and data. That Jupiter is a giant ball of liquid hydrogen where violent storms can last for years. And that one big red spot on Jupiter is a hurricane 3 times the size of Earth and 350 years old. American yachtsmen have retained the America's Cup since 1851. Over those 123 years, 21 challengers from abroad have tried but failed to win the Cup. Today, an Austrian challenger began trying. Charles Osgood reports from Newport, Rhode Island.
This one, they said, would do it. Australia's Southern Cross is, according to most observers, the most serious challenge yet to America's possession of the America's Cup. It's a super boat with a super crew, which performs superlatively well, they say, especially in heavy wind. The wind is an unpredictable thing in September in Newport, but this morning, even before the mist rose, there was enough wind to flutter the pennants at dockside. Number 26 is Courageous, the American Defender. It was chosen by the New York Yacht Club Selection Committee. Like Southern Cross, it's a new boat, aluminum hulled. As the boats are towed away from the dock, they're greeted by a chorus of horn blasts from boats in the harbor, many of which become the audience for the races. You can't really see very well from the shore, though many people line the cliffs of Newport to try. The best seat to watch from is some other boat, and the size of the spectator fleet means the Coast Guard has its hands full keeping the course clear. The wind did not pick up, and so light was it that the race committee waited until the last possible moment, 10 after 2, before signaling the start. As the afternoon wore on, Courageous, the American boat, opened up more and more of a lead, and in the end, the Defender crossed the finish line well ahead of the Challenger. So now it's Courageous 1, Southern Cross nothing in the best-of-7 series. Maybe the Australians will take home the America's Cup, but to do so, they will need a little better performance and maybe a little more wind. Charles Osgood, CBS News, Newport.
Of course, I meant to say an Australian challenger, not an Austrian one. Treasury Secretary William Simon said today the government has to loosen restraints and price controls on the energy industry so power supplies can be increased. Tomorrow, the Treasury Department is the principal host for a meeting with state public utilities commissioners, and the Associated Press reports the federal officials will argue for higher electric rates. The Agriculture Department today produced a plan for changing the meat grading system, saying it hopes lower meat prices will be the result. Under the plan, leaner but equally nutritious beef would qualify for prime and choice labels. Cattlemen would be allowed to market grass-fed animals with less juicy meats and still get top-grade prices for them. The current standards for fat content or marbling force the cattlemen to use expensive grains for feeding. Chairman Alan Greenspan of the Council of Economic Advisors said again today the money supply has to be tightened, not eased, and brokers cited his remarks as one reason for slumping prices on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrials lost nearly 5 points. Volume on the New York Stock Exchange was 12 million shares. The average price per share lost 19 cents on the New York Exchange, 6 cents on the American.
If you've had athlete's foot, it just could be that you're going to get it again in this kind of weather. Okay, this time, catch it early. As soon as you feel a little athlete's foot itch, spray on NP27. NP27 will catch that fungus early, kill it, and help keep it from coming back. Use NP27 and kick that itch. NP27, the end of the itch.
Here's a scientific fact. When you're young, your eyes produce about this much soothing moisture every day. But by age 40, your eyes may produce about half as much. So occasionally may strain and hurt more. Now there's Clear Eyes, for eyes over 40. Clear Eyes has a special moisturizing formula with methylcellulose. Helps relieve dryness, remove redness, soothe irritation. Clear Eyes, for eyes over 40. Use as directed.
In his commentary tonight, Eric Severide examines some of the historic and national aspects of the pardoning of Richard Nixon.
The chance that Richard Nixon will ever be declared guilty of breaking the laws of the United States by any official body is slipping away. If President Ford now also pardons the other Watergate defendants, the chance of ever getting the whole truth of Watergate may also slip away. The still secret tapes remain, but in what form would they ever be produced? This is one of the questions that torment those in the Capitol who don't want the Watergate book to be closed till it's been read. And what was the ex-president's bargaining power? None was exercised, says the White House. There was no deal. But the question will not down. A presidential pardon is a tremendous gift. Mr. Nixon gave nothing in return, no admission of anything beyond managerial malapropisms, not even a commitment to stay out of public life. And those who suspect the existence of a previous Ford-Nixon agreement, and there's no evidence of one, make the point that the pardon came precisely 30 days after Ford's swearing in. Somehow this Capitol will have to be satisfied on this if Mr. Ford is to clear enough space to resume the moral leadership of the country. There appears almost no question about his constitutional authority to pardon before indictment or conviction, but the authors of the Constitution had something else in mind besides mercy. They first considered limiting the pardoning power to apply only after conviction. They decided to permit pre-conviction pardons, not for humanitarian reasons, but to help enforce the law, to encourage testimony against others. That purpose is lost in the Nixon case if the others are also to be pardoned. So what can be done to leave an official verdict for history? The grand jury, acting on its own, would help somewhat, even if the prosecutor failed to sign the indictment. The House could still vote impeachment, but probably won't, though there is precedent for post-resignation impeachment. The Senate could formally endorse the House impeachment report as it now stands, or the two chambers together could formally censure Mr. Nixon. He has, after all, accepted a pardon, and a pardon is by no means a finding of innocence. Indeed, it implies presumption of guilt. He is the only man in our long political history to resign the presidency of the United States. A man in that unique position and convinced of his own innocence would, one would think, fight through the courts to clear his name if it took the rest of his life. Instead, Mr. Nixon will write a book using the tapes and the documents. A new law is long overdue, one that makes it clear that materials accumulated by any public official in the course of his official duties, paid for out of public monies, belongs to the public, that is, the government.
That's the news this Tuesday night. I'm Roger Mudd, CBS News. Good night.
You know, when we first got married, we spent more money on camping equipment than we did on furnishing our apartment.
Yeah.
But we won't live like this forever.
That's why we opened a savings account at a savings and loan. We picked a savings and loan because we found that they finance most of the homes in the country.
When we find the house we want, our savings will be our down payment. But we figure, why not start out with people who can help us get all the way home?
Right.
Your savings and loan wants you to know how money works.
I teach college, and some days I really get a headache. I used to feel that every pain reliever was just like every other one, until I took Anacin.
Right, Mrs. Loftus. While all three leading pain relievers reach an effective level in your bloodstream in minutes, in the final analysis only one of them hits and holds the highest level, Anacin. This difference is the extra pain reliever Anacin provides when you have a headache.
I found Anacin works well, and it doesn't upset my stomach.
Anacin for a higher level of pain reliever.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News, with Roger Mudd substituting for Walter Cronkite. The Evans family trembles when the usually calm Florida becomes a full-fledged hurricane on the season premiere of Good Times, tonight at 8, 7 Central on CBS.
WLAC-TV, Nashville.